welcome to the March reveal of our County Line craft box. So every month we do a craft box. We never repeat what our crafts are. Every month it is something new. It is always a wooden based project, and the box comes complete with everything that you need. All pieces, step-by-step instructions, a video tutorial, paint, glue, anything that you would need. So let's go ahead and open up our box and get started. This month for March, we have an Easter gnome theme for our box. And inside every box, you're going to have a picture to see what your project should look like. You don't have to make yours look that way. You could use different colors if you wanted to, or move pieces around. But this just gives you kind of like a base to go by. And we've got our step-by-step instructions, and down at the bottom there's a QR code that you can scan with your phone that will pull up the video tutorial. And I also post that on our Facebook page. We have a little hook for mounting on the back to hang our picture up on the wall if chosen. We have a paintbrush, we have our wet wipes, our paper plate, our foam wedges, super glue, our paint colors. We've got white, green, yellow, pink, and purple. And then we've got our wood cut out pieces. I'm going to set my box over to the side. If you want to repurpose your box and use it to cover your work surface, that's always great, because you want to put something down on your table or wherever you're painting so that you do not get paint on your surface. So I'm going to take my pieces and set them all to the side. And we're going to start with our round wooden base. Alright, I'm going to follow our directions. Step 1, dip the moist wipe into the purple paint and wipe on your base round board. Repeat until it's covered. 2 light coats work well. So I'm going to take this, just wrap it around, fold it over, good. Dip it in my paint, and I'm going to go with the direction of the wood grain. You want to make sure you get around your edges good. All right, I'm going to let that dry for just a second before we do our second coat. Now I remembered I forgot to grab one of the brushes that we need for the kit, so I'm going to grab that while this is drying. So in your kit, you're also going to have a 1-inch chip brush that we're going to be using. All right, I'm going to do a second coat. And you'll notice that you're going to get a lot better coverage with your second coat than you did your first. This is probably the most tedious part of the whole project because you want to get a good layer of paint on, but you don't want it to be like too thick and clumpy. And using the wipe like this method gives us a good light coverage without being too thick. And I'm just kind of tapping a little on in extra areas where it seems like a little bit lighter. All right, I'm happy with how that looks. I'm gonna let it dry for just a minute. The second part of step 1 is optional. You can use the white paint and the chip brush to give it kind of a distressed look like we have in our picture. I will be doing that, but I'm gonna let my purple dry for just a minute before I do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to step 2, which is grab your letters in a sponge and you're gonna dip it into the green paint. And another optional part, you can grab painter's tape. I'm gonna grab mine real quick. When we're doing lots of small pieces like the letters, painter's tape is a quick, easy way to paint them without getting as much paint on your hands. You're just gonna put it down on your surface with the sticky side up, and then you can stick your letters on here, and it will help hold them in place and keep them from moving around while you are dabbing the paint on them. You're also going to need your white paper plate. So once again, grab your letters and sponge, dip your sponge into the green paint and dab off the excess paint onto your plate so that you just have a thin coat of paint on here. And then you're going to gently dab up and down on the letters, being mindful to try to not get it on the edges of the letters. And using the painter's tape like this really helps cut down on the amount of paint that you get on your fingers because you're not having to hold each little piece while you're dabbing it. And you're going to want to do 2 coats on your letters. And we always want 2 thin coats instead of 1 thick, heavy coat, because it will make your paint dry really clumpy and just not look good. All right, so those look good. I'm gonna take them and set them over here to the side to dry. And then I'm gonna go back to my purple round. I'm gonna open up the white paint. Remove the plastic from my chip brush by just pulling it off. And then we're gonna dip it in. And we're gonna wipe off the excess on our plate. And then we're gonna start in the middle and just kind of brush out a little bit. Jake, hush. You really don't need a whole lot of paint on it. And honestly, I feel like I may have gotten a little bit too much white up here, so I'm just going to grab my wipe that I used for the purple paint, and I'm just going to wipe a little on here to try to tone that down a little bit. And then I'm going to grab my brush again and just do a few strokes. So you definitely want to start with just a little bit of paint on your brush, because honestly I started with a little bit too much and I haven't had to go back and add any extra paint. Alright, so I'm happy with how that looks. I'm going to set it to the side to dry, and we are going to move on to step 3. Take your gnome the white paint in a clean foam wedge. You're going to dip the wedge into the white paint, dab the excess off on your paper plate, and paint the parts of the gnome that should be white. Use the picture provided so that you can see what parts should be white. I'm going to start here with the ears. And I'm going to go ahead and paint the inside of the ears, even though they're going to end up being pink. But I'm going to use the wedge to paint them white first. And just like with the letters, we're going to do 2 thin coats of paint. Alright, so then his whole beard area is going to be white. That will be much easier to do than the ears. And I generally tell you not to wipe with a foam brush, but in this instance you can when we're going around kind of these tight areas here. Alright, and then I'm going to do my second coat. like the ears were not quite wide enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and do one more coat on those. Okay. Now we are gonna do the same thing with the purple paint. We have one more foam wedge. Since I'm gonna have to fit into smaller nooks and crannies, I'm gonna use the smaller side of my foam wedge. Dip it in the paint, dab off the excess, and we're gonna do the rest of our little gnome. Do the feet. I'm just gonna go back and do that second layer on the hat. Set that to the side just in case I need to go back to it and add in more. All right, step 4. We are now going to be using the paintbrush. We're going to get the little egg and the gnome hands. Paint the yellow part of the egg. And that is the top, middle, and bottom section. And you can also use the paintbrush to help you for painting the gnome as well. just remember to use thin coats of paint. All right, and then I'm going to go back to the top of the egg and add a second coat. And I've actually decided it's really hard painting around all these circles, so I'm going to paint over them with yellow. And then when we go back and use the correct color, I think it's pink, we'll just paint over the yellow. All right, so the yellow part of our egg is done. I'm gonna grab my extra baby wipe and I'm gonna clean off my brush. And then I'll get the pink paint and paint the pink parts and the green. But before I do that, I'm going to have to pause the video to go pick Carlin up from preschool. So I'm gonna pause this quickly. And then I will pick up where I left off as soon as I get back from school with her. All right, I'm back and I'm ready to finish up our project. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my purple paint and my paintbrush, and I'm gonna paint the hands of the gnome holding the egg. And we're going to do 2 coats on that. Okay, then we're going to grab that wet wipe again to clean off our paintbrush. And then we're going to use the pink paint. And we are going to paint the circles of the egg pink. And then we're going to paint the gnome's ears and nose pink as well. All right, I'm going to go back and add just a little bit more to the circles. Alright, now we're going to clean off our paintbrush again. And we're going to be using the green paint to paint the zigzag part of the egg. And then I'm going to clean my paintbrush off in case, so that it's clean and the paint doesn't dry on it, just in case I need to go back and touch anything else up. And then I'm going to place my pieces on my round so that I can get an idea of where I want them to be before I put any glue down. Alright, and I'm good with that. So I'm going to grab my super glue. I'm going to carefully twist on the lid, not over my work surface, just in case a little bit comes out. And then I'm going to dab a little bit of glue on the back of our gnome. Give that a good press. And then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back of each letter. And then my egg is still a little bit wet. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to grab the backer pieces for hanging. And what we're going to do is we are going to glue the small rectangle onto the bottom of the bigger piece. Press that on good. And then we will glue that. Oh. Give him a little bit more glue. I probably should have waited for the glue to dry a little bit better. There we go. Well, you really should let your glue dry. And I know I always say that, so do as I say, not as I do right now. Anyway, to glue this on the back, you're going to want the saw teeth on the top part, and you're going to put glue where you've double stacked your wood. And then you're going to want that centered on the top and give it a good firm press. So like just like that. I think I need to use a little bit more glue. There we go. And then before I put glue on my little gnome hands, I'm going to line them up where I want them to be. And I'll give it a good firm press. And I recommend letting your project set for about an hour before picking it up. Maybe even let it set before you glue your backer piece on for about an hour. Wait, just so you don't have the same mishap that I did. Yeah, see, it came unglued again. But there we go. Here is our project for March. It'll be perfect for displaying for Easter, which is coming up. Put some more glue on there. And that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or send me an email. And that's it. Thanks.